All set for the face-off at center ice. The Leafs in their dark blue uniforms. Chicago Blackhawks in white, and Stan Mikita, number 21 at center, is checked by Duff, who lost his stick. Fade back at center, Carl Brewer. A pass to Armstrong over the line. There's the shot, and it's wide. Here Palat, watched by Keon. Now Kenny Warham. A pass to Stan Mikita. Back to Warham. He was checked. Duff. A pass for Keon. Hopped over on the wing. Vaughn ran into Stan Mikita and went down. And Vaughn ran into Ab McDonald. Ab McDonald in possession. Hit Duff with it. Here Palat. Pass out at center. Gets it himself. Knocked it along the boards. Keon back for Brewer. Brewer turns back at his own blue line. Over to Bob Vaughn on the right wing. Ahead to Armstrong. Back to Keon. Got it in, a bouncer, and it bounces wide of the Chicago goal. Here Palat. Hit by Duff. Comes out over the blue line. Knocked back into the corner in Chicago territory. Elmer the Moose Vasco. Starting out. Flips it on the board, stopped by Armstrong. He hit Keon in the back, and Vasco takes the safety. Being watched by Armstrong and goes behind the net. Over on the left wing to Ab McDonald. Back to Vasco. Cleared it along the boards for McDonald. McDonald and Mikita go to center, and Mikita shoots it into the Leaf zone. Tom Simmons leaves it for Carl Brewer, who puts it over for Duff. Duff gets it to center. Al McNeil is now on the ice. Shot it back into the Leaf zone, but it was offside. Warham slow coming out. Face-off is now at center ice, coming up to the 2-minute mark of the first period. No score between the Leafs and the Chicago Blackhawks, with Kelly on the forward line now with Stewart and Shack. And it's Hay with Hull and Murray Balfour for Chicago. Al McNeil flips it to the Leaf blue line, and Tim Horton shoots it off the boards at center. Al McNeil hit by Kelly, and it goes into the Leaf zone where Tim Horton gets it. Pass ahead for Kelly. He was stopped by Wayne Hillman, number 20. Stanley tries to kick it along the boards, ran into Murray Balfour. Hillman hit Stanley with it. Deflects over to Ron Stewart. Ron Stewart hit a skate. Here's Billy Hay. A pass right in front of the net, and it slid wide. It's back for Al McNeil, a shot right across in front of the net, and Shack gets it up to Kelly. Kelly with Stewart. That's over to Stewart. There's the shot. Caught by Glenn Hall. Left it for Wayne Hillman. He ran into Stanley. Bobby Hull goes behind the net. I'll try to bring it out. Shack ran into Hillman, knocked him flat. Pushes into Al McNeil. And it's Hillman getting it up to Balfour, stopped by Kelly. Hillman gets it back to McNeil. Bringing it up to center. Shoots it into the Leaf zone, and Simmons stops it there. Leaves it. Horton comes up with it. A pass for Stewart. Stewart took it away from McNeil, goes down the ice, and Billy Hay gets back to cover up and shoot it out. Bobby Hull turns with a pass to Hay. Hay having difficulty, gains his footing. Pass to Hull right through the defense, but he couldn't control it. Stewart ran into him, and the puck comes to the blue line. Palat shot it in offside. Face-off is outside the Maple Leaf blue line. Pulford, Mahavlich, and Nevin facing Chico Mackey, Ron Murphy, and Eric Nestorenko. Bond bringing the puck out on the left wing. He's knocked down. Nestorenko shot it in. Brewer. Pass to Frank Mahavlich. Over here for Pulford on the left wing. Pierre Palat knocked it off the boards. Carl Brewer carries into Chicago territory, took his shot. Glenn Hall stopping it. Pierre Palat into the corner. Passed it behind him, and Vasco digs it out. Watched by Pulford. Pulford back to Brewer. There's his shot, and it was high. Comes back to Carl Brewer, number 2, over to Bob Bond, 21, and he passed it for Nevin. Vasco was knocked down. Pierre Palat touches it. Icing is called against the Leafs.
Squeal over there at the grill.
Face-off is in the Leaf zone to the right. Chicago play every man up. Bond runs into Chico Mackey, and Pulford shoots it off the boards down the ice. Nevin goes after it. Pierre Palat gets back first. Stops behind the net. Here's a rink-wide pass for Ron Murphy. Murphy is bumped by Nevin, and Bob Bond gets it. There's Bond's shot. That was just off the corner. Here's Pulford getting it in front. And Glenn Hall had to stop it. Back to Bond again, a shot. Glenn Hall stopped that. Change of players all around as Ab McDonald, Stan Mikita, Kenny Warham, Wayne Hillman, and Al McNeil face Keon, Duff, and Armstrong, Horton, and Stanley. Al McNeil, number 19, a pass for Mikita. He's hit. A shot by Keon was stopped by Wayne Hillman. He couldn't get out over the blue line. Ab McDonald is stopped by Keon, who shot it over to the left wing. Shot by Stanley to Duff. Duff shoots it over the line. It's knocked out again and in again off Duff. Face off outside the Chicago blue line. Stan Mikita gets the draw back to Wayne Hillman. Over to Al McNeil. Al McNeil passes out in front. It's deflected through. Kenny Warham after it. He shoots it. And Simmons made the save on that. And Warham went flying into the board. He's hit again and knocked down. As the Blackhawks came within an ace of making it 1-0. Duff shoots it out off the boards to center. Shot back in again, and Alan Stanley gets it. Stanley over to Horton. Up for Armstrong, too far. Al McNeil, a pass over here to Fleming. He's checked. Hillman in the corner. Pass to Mikita. Stanley gets in ahead of Fleming. Puck goes high, knocked down by Stan Mikita. Mikita trying to get around Horton. A pass for Fleming, and Stanley broke it up. Clears it ahead for Duff, too far. Hillman lets it slide. Hillman didn't bother to go after it, so it's waved down by the linesman. And play will continue. Hillman, a long pass to Ab McDonald. Up at center. Tried to go through, and he was checked. Duff. Pass for Ron Stewart. Failed to click. Mikita shot it over the line. Stanley. Off the boards for Kelly. Kelly up the center. Over the line. Still has it. Pass it in front of the net. Here's Shack trying. Flash it wide. Shack gets it again. In the corner. Behind the net. Passed it right in front of the net to Stanley. Stanley over to Horton. Horton took his shot, and that was stopped by Vasco. Play is called, and there's going to be a penalty here to Shack.
Leafs penalty, number 23, Shack. 2 minutes for slashing. Time 7:10.
7:10, a slashing penalty, Eddie Shack. That means the Leafs will play a man short, and that brings up Billy Hay with Murray Balfour, Bobby Howe, Pierre Pilote, and Stan Mikita. Fulford and Nevin trying to kill off this penalty. The first penalty of the game. Hay starts up at his own blue line. Back pass to Stan Mikita, goes to center. Gets away from Nevin. Pass it over to Hay. He lost it momentarily. It goes out over the blue line. Pierre Pilote over for Howe. Bobby Howe winds up at center. Tried to go through. Simmons came out of the net. Fulford overskated it, and Carl Brewer gets it and lifts it down the ice. Pierre Pilote back for it. 1 minute and 15 seconds left in the penalty to Eddie Shack. Hay gets away from Fulford. Hull on his left. Took the pass over the line. There's the shot. It hit Bond. And Fulford gets a hold of it and shoots it down the ice. Armstrong comes over the boards, and so does Keon to replace Fulford and Nevin. Mikita fanned on his first try, flips it back to Pierre Pilote over the line with a pass on the left wing. It's outside. "11 minutes and 31 seconds remaining in the first period. No score. Face-off outside the Maple Leaf blue line. Mikita, Warren, and McDonald. Bobby Howe is back at the blue line. Pierre Pilote. 4 forwards, 1 defenseman. 35 seconds remaining in Shack's penalty. Bobby Howe. Over to Pierre Pilote. Gets away from Armstrong. Up the center. Keon covered him. A shot into the Leaf zone, though. Stan Mikita races after it. Stanley bumped into him. Warren shot it behind the net. Ab McDonald tried to clear it back. He did to Pierre Pilote. There's his shot, and that just deflected wide of the corner. Horton takes his time and shoots it down the ice. Pierre Pilote back for it. 3 seconds remaining in the penalty. Shack is on the ice. Pass for Stan Mikita goes over to Ab McDonald. Ab McDonald works his way to center. Pass to Stan Mikita. His pass for Warren and Hull goes to the side. Here's right in front of the net, and Warren missed it. Horton working his way out. Long pass for Keon. Outside. Way outside. Face-off is inside the Leaf blue line as Kelly is out there now with Mahovlich on the left wing and Stewart on the right. Nesterenko, Chico Mackey, and Ron Murphy for Chicago. On the face-off, Ron Murphy gets his shot. That's high, and it goes over the glass. Face-off is in Leaf territory. From the draw, Howie Young took his shot. It went through Stanley's legs. He fell down. There's Murphy's shot wide. Elmer Vasco let one go that ends up in the corner. Caroms to the opposite side. And it's Stanley unable to get it out. Kelly tries to get it out. It's along the boards. It's kicked out to center. Stewart ran into Howie Young. Kelly carries on up over the blue line. Back to Horton. Horton took his shot. Kelly went after it, and Vasco intercepted. Elmer Vasco. A pass to Howie Young. Young gets to center, gets his shot, and Simmons caught that, and Frank Mahovlich picks it up. A pass for Kelly failed to click. Ron Stewart breaks down the right wing. Murphy had him covered, but he cleared the puck into the Chicago zone. Howie Young checked by Mahovlich. He's grabbed. There's going to be a penalty there to Young. Young of Chicago gets the gate, gives the Leafs the odd man advantage.
Chicago penalty, number 2, Young. 2 minutes for holding.
A holding penalty.
Time 10:36.
10:36 is the time of the holding penalty to the Chicago Blackhawks player, Howie Young. Larry Hillman comes out for the first time in the game for the Leafs on the defense, number 22, along with Kelly, Armstrong, Keon, and Duff. On the faceoff, Kelly took his shot wide. Armstrong let it go to Hillman. Hillman over here for Kelly. Armstrong standing in front. Duff lets his shot go. That's way wide. Hillman from the other wing. Over to Kelly. Kelly into Duff. Tried to get it back. Nestorenko jammed by the Leaf player and knocked down. And they can't get it loose and hold it for another face-off in the Chicago zone. And Wayne Hillman playing out there in the defense for Chicago. Larry Hillman for the Maple Leafs. On the faceoff, it's cleared down the ice by number 20, Wayne Hillman. Larry Hillman goes back for it. Kelly leading a four-man rush. At center. Shot it over the line. Goes behind the goal. Nestorenko was checked. Keon passes back to Hillman. There's the shot. Wait up. Another shot. And George Armstrong whacked in the rebound. George Armstrong gets his 9th goal of the season. And in that case, perseverance paid off. He just kept whacking at the loose puck until it went underneath Glenn Hall, who stopped it at least 3 times. And now it's 1-0 for the Maple Leafs in this first period. Chicago from the faceoff for coming down the ice, led by Murray Balfour, number 8. He's stopped by Bond.
Leafs goal scored by number 10, Armstrong. Assists, number 14, Keon. Number 22, Hillman. Time, 11:30.
11:30 was the time of Armstrong's goal from Keon and Hillman. Face off inside the Leaf blue line. Pulford, Mahavlich, and Nevin facing Hay, Holland, Balfour. Pass out to Nevin at center with Carl Brewer. Shot off the boards for Pulford. Glenn Hall came out of the net. Cleared along the boards. Balfour gets it out for Hay, and Nevin was there to check him. Cleared back into the Chicago zone. Clearing pass for Al McNeil. Al McNeil's pass goes all the way to Carl Brewer. Over to Bob Bond. He handed it right to Al McNeil, who was hit by Nevin. Goes back into the Leaf zone. Bob Bond back for it. Behind the net. Pass over to Brewer. Up off the boards for Pulford, too far. Pierre Palat handed it to Bob Nevin. Over the line, there's his shot, and he shot it high and wide. Al McNeil. A pass for Bobby Hull. Frank Mahavlich, too well covered. Murray Balfour passed it out. Bob Bond wrapped it back. Balfour gets the loose puck at center, then left it there for Hull. Bobby Hull was checked by Pulford. Goes back to Bond. Bond shoots it in. Bounces at the back of the Chicago net. Here, Palat over here to Murray Balfour. Gets it out to Bill Hay. Hay comes to center. Shoots it over the Leaf line, and Bond goes after it into the corner. Shot around on the boards. Back to Al McNeil. There's the shot. And Simmons, although he didn't appear to see it, came up with it. Don Simmons caught that puck, even though it appeared as if he'd lost sight of it. We have a face-off in the Maple Leaf zone to the right. 1-0 for the Maple Leafs with 6 minutes, 32 seconds remaining to play in the first period. Chicago have Stan Mikita, Kenny Warham, and Ab McDonald, Pierre Palat, and Elmer Vasco all inside the blue line. Martin got the draw to Stanley. Stanley passes the puck ahead for Duff. Intercepted by Pierre Palat to Stan Mikita. There's a shot, and that Simmons stopped that, knocking it to the corner. Stanley cleared it to the blue line and out. Shot right back in again, offside. Face-off will be at center ice on the Maple Leaf side of the checkered line. Keon trying to clear to an open wing. Pierre Palat moved up, flips it for Warham, stopped by Stanley. Makita then shot it into the Leaf zone. Horton, pass over to Armstrong. Armstrong up for Duff. Duff going down the ice with Keon, closing in, and he just couldn't get a shot. Cleared to Stan Mikita. Back up to Pierre Palat. Back pass to Stan Mikita, the center. Pass for Ab McDonald over the blue line offside. Kenny Warham hopped in ahead of him on the right wing. All set for the face-off outside the blue line. Kelly drags it with his skate, but lost possession to Pierre Palat, to Elmer Vasco, to Stan Mikita, to Kenny Warham. Jack covered him, and the pass off his stick went to Ron Stewart of the Maple Leafs. Stewart to Horton. Off the boards for Kelly. Tipped over here for Shack. Into the Chicago zone. Watched by Pierre Palat. Tried to center it. Palat holding on to Shack will get a penalty. The Leafs scored with Young in the penalty box for holding at 10:36. Now they'll enjoy a man
Chicago
advantage
penalty,
again.
number 3, Palat. 2 minutes for holding. Time 14:43.
A holding penalty to Pierre Palat at 14:43. Brings out Pulford, Mahavlich, Nevin, Hillman, and Kelly. Eric Nestorenko, Stan Mikita, Wayne Hillman, Elmer Vasco. Kelly shot the puck for Pulford. Pulford goes behind the net, passes it to Nevin, and his shot was off the target. Kelly clears it behind the net again. It ends up at the side of the goal, and Glenn Hall covers up with his skate. Face-off in the Chicago zone to the right. 5 minutes and 1 second remaining in the first period. Pulford is chased out of the circle again for not lining up properly. Mahavlich didn't get the draw. The Blackhawks clear to the blue line. Kelly watched by Makita, and it goes back into the corner. Hillman passed one for Nestorenko. Kelly and Pulford tried to keep it in. Pulford chased back at center over to Hillman. Hillman, number 22. Pass for Frank Mahavlich. Up over the Chicago line, back to Nevin. There's the shot. Oh, stop that. Nestorenko is bumped. Frank Mahavlich gets it over to Nevin, back to Hillman. Larry Hillman on the right side is given a bump, gets it loose. Nevin shoots it back to Hillman. He tried to flip it in front, and Vasco finds an opening and shoots it down the ice. Kelly back there for it. Now he starts out. 4 of them up the center. Kelly shot it off the boards. The rebound. Glenn Hall knocking it to the side. Here's a chance for Mahavlich. He took a shot. And that was deflected off Elmer Vasco. Chico Mackey Plays it out for Vasco, and he shot it down the ice. About 32 seconds left in the penalty to Pierre Palat. Larry Hillman. Up to Dave Keon with Duff and Armstrong. Over the line. Keon back for Kelly. It's right in front of the net. Hillman goes after it. Shot it off the board. Duff covered by Nestorenko. Vasco holds it there for a faceoff. And there's 10 seconds left in the penalty to Pierre Palat. 3 minutes and 36 seconds remaining in the first period. On the faceoff, puck was shot down the ice. Simmons out of the net. Harton goes back. Chicago changed on the goal, and Pierre Palat is out of the penalty box. Harton to Keon. Up to Duff. Duff took his shot. Armstrong gets the rebound and wrapped it around off the glass. Stanley moves up. Duff tried to center it. Al McNeil shot it around for Bobby Hull. Horton lets his shot go, and Glenn Hall caught that. He flipped into the corner. Armstrong. Back to Horton. Here he's coming in from the side. The shot! And that was over top of the net. Duff left it for Armstrong, and Bobby Hull stole it. Ahead to Hayes. Up over the line with Balfour. Stanley deflected it to Armstrong. Armstrong was hit. Stanley missed it, and Hull was back for it. Hull at center. Coming to the Leaf defense. He's turned around by Horton. There could be a penalty here to Horton.
Leafs penalty, number 7, Horton. 2 minutes for hooking. Time 17:36.
Face-off is in the lead zone to the right. It comes back to Stan Mikita, over to Pierre Palat. Here's a shot. Bobby Hull tried to deflect it. Bob Bond shot it off the boards and down the ice. Tim Horton, a hooking penalty at 17:36. Gives Chicago a one-man advantage, playing 6 men to 5. The Leafs lead in the game 1-0. A pass over to Pierre Palat. Hay was knocked flat by Bobby Hull. Pulford. Back up comes Hay with a pass back to Pierre Palat. With Bobby Hull over the line, it's checked by Brewer. Balfour leaves it for Hull, and Hull comes down the ice. He's checked by Nevin. Hello, Canada and hockey fans, the United States. Bill Hewitt here at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, and the score is 1-0 for the Maple Leafs in this first period with 1 minute and 12 seconds remaining. And the Blackhawks have the odd man advantage, playing 6 men to 5. Tim Horton is serving a hooking penalty. He received at 17:36. Here's Hull trying to get away from Nevin. Back to Murray Balfour. There's going to be a penalty to Nevin. It's stopped at center by Bond. Bobby Hull back for it. The Chicago player has their goalkeeper off the ice. They got 6 attackers, and it's offside at the blue line. The Leafs will play 2 men short. A penalty handed out here. Nevin of the Leafs is going to the penalty box. That means they'll play 2 men short. There's about 24 seconds left in Horton's penalty.
Leafs penalty, number 11, Nevin. 2 minutes for high sticking.
High sticking.
Time 19:14.
19:14. The Chicago Blackhawks, who used that sixth man to advantage in most games, had it. The Chicago Blackhawks, who used that sixth man to advantage in most games, had it going for them again. Now they have a two-man advantage, 6 men to 4, trailing 1-0. Keon with Brewer and Vaughn. It's Hull with Pierre Pilote, Ab McDonald, Dan Mikita, and Kenny Warham. Back to Pierre Pilote. Pilote going in with his shot. Simmons grabbed that. Face-off in the lead zone to the right. Chicago play every man up. Orton has about 13 seconds left in his penalty. Nevin, of course, has 1:50. It's back to Bobby Hull. His shot. Simmons got his toe in the way of that. Pierre Pilote shot it around behind the net to Ab McDonald. Over here to Bobby Hull. Here's his shot. It deflects to the opposite wing. Carl Brewer with it. Still in possession. Back to Bond. Bond flips it out to center ice. Bobby Hull coming up with a pass. Deflected from Keon to Warham to Pilote. His shot goes over top of the net. Dan Mikita tried to center it and it's grabbed by Don Simmons. We have 4 seconds remaining in the first period. 1-0 for the Maple Leafs. 1:17 seconds remaining in the penalty to Bob Nevin. He'll have 1:14 to start the second period. Face-off in the circle to the left of Don Simmons. Chicago playing every man up. This strategy has paid off for Chicago before. In the last meeting, they scored with 1 second remaining in the period. Here's Stanley shooting it, and it comes back to Pierre Pilote as the bell goes to end the first period. One scoring play, that was Armstrong from Keane and Hillman at 11:30. A total of 5 penalties in the first period. 3 of them to the Leafs and 2 to Chicago. At one time, the Leafs played short-handed, 2 men. And so far, the Blackhawks have been unable to break through when they've had that man advantage. So the score at the end of the first period, Toronto Maple Leafs 1, Chicago Blackhawks 0.
Now this is a road, and this is a car, and where it's going is not very far. It's taking the road that all cars know, the familiar sign that says SO. Now this is a motorist, and here's what he sees: the roads and the towns and the forests and the trees and the SO sign standing out from the rest, and he looks to Imperial for the best. Always look to Imperial for the best. Now thousands of other motorists agree it's Imperial for value and quality. Wherever you drive in country or town, whether on the way up or on the way down, it's SO. Or SO Extra. At the SO sign that's not very far. Now this man says with all the rest, always look to Imperial for the best. At your Imperial SO dealers.
Good evening, everyone. Ward Cornell here, and welcome to Hockey Night in Canada. And we're having ourselves a very thrilling hockey game tonight, and with the highlights, Ed Fitkin.
Thank you, Ward, and it is a very exciting game. Toronto Maple Leafs lead 1-0 at the end of the first period. The first good play of the period, the first good opportunity came when Bobby Bond shot from the point. Bob Pulford just missed the rebound as he knifed through, got the puck back again to Bond, and Bond came in with a shot that made Glenn Hall jump about 2 feet off the ice. Here's how it looked.
Chicago play every man up. Bond runs into Chico Mackey, and Pulford shoots it off the boards down the ice. Nevin goes after it. Pierre Palat gets back first. Stops behind the net. Here's a rink-wide pass for Ron Murphy. Murphy is bumped by Nevin, and Bob Bond gets it. There's Bond's shot. That was just off the corner. Here's Pulford getting it in front. And Glenn Hall had to stop it. Back to Bond again, a shot. Glenn Hall stopped that.
Eddie Shack drew a penalty, and that gave the Chicago Blackhawks an opportunity to get going, and Bobby Hull, Ab McDonald, and Pierre Palat made some good plays, but the Hawks failed to score. But it was exciting as it lasted.
Leafs penalty, number 23, Shack. 2 minutes for slashing. Time 7:10.
7:10, a slashing penalty to Eddie Shack. That means the Leafs will play a man short, and that brings up Billy Hay with Murray Balfour, Bobby Hull, Pierre Palat, and Stan Mikita. Fulford and Nevin trying to kill off this penalty. The first penalty of the game. Hay starts up at his own blue line. Back pass to Stan Mikita, goes to center. Gets away from Nevin. Pass it over to Hay. He lost it momentarily. It goes out over the blue line. Pierre Palat over for Hull. Bobby Hull winds up at center. Trying to go through. Simmons came out of the net. Fulford overskated it, and Carl Brewer gets it and lifts it down the ice. Pierre Palat back for it. 1 minute and 15 seconds left in the penalty to Eddie Shack. Hay gets away from Fulford. Hull on his left, took the pass over the line. There's the shot. It hit Bond, and Fulford gets a hold of it and shoots it down the ice. Armstrong comes over the boards, and so does Keon to replace Fulford and Nevin. Mikita fanned on his first try, flips it back to Pierre Palat over the line with a pass on the left wing. It's offside. .11 minutes and 31 seconds remaining in the first period. No score. Face-off outside the Maple Leaf blue line. Mikita, Warren, and McDonald. Bobby Hull is back at the blue line. Pierre Palat. 4 forwards, 1 defenseman. 35 seconds remaining in Shack's penalty. Bobby Hull. Over to Pierre Palat. Gets away from Armstrong. Up to center. Keon covered him. A shot into the Leaf zone, no. Sam Mikita races after it. Stanley bumped into him. Warren shot it behind the net. Ab McDonald tried to clear it back. He did to Pierre Palat. There's his shot, and that just deflected wide of the corner. Horton takes his time and shoots it down the ice. Pierre Palat back for it. 3 seconds remaining in the penalty. Shack is on the ice. Pass for Stan Mikita goes over to Ab McDonald. Ab McDonald works his way to center. Pass to Stan Mikita. His pass for Warren and Hull goes to the side. Here's right in front of the net, and Warren missed it. Horton working his way out. Long pass for Keon. Offside. Way offside.
Toronto got the opening goal of the game when Dave Keon got the puck from behind the net, passed it back to Larry Hillman at the point. Hillman shot, and in a wild scramble around the Chicago goal, George Armstrong finally belted it past Glenn Hall to make it 1-0.
Young. 2 minutes for holding.
A holding penalty.
Time 10:36.
10:36 is the time of the holding penalty to the Chicago Blackhawks player, Howie Young. Larry Hillman comes out for the first time in the game for the Leafs on the defense, number 22, along with Kelly, Armstrong, Keon, and Duff. On the face-off, Kelly took his shot wide. Armstrong let it go to Hillman. Hillman over here for at least for Kelly. Armstrong standing in front. Duff lets his shot go. That's way wide. Hellman from the other wing. Over to Kelly. Kelly into Duff. Trying to get it back. Nestorenko jammed by the Leaf player and knocked down. And they can't get it loose and hold it for another face-off in the Chicago zone. And Wayne Hillman playing out there in the defense for Chicago. Larry Hillman for the Maple Leafs. On the face-off, it's cleared down the ice by number 20, Wayne Hillman. Larry Hillman goes back for it. Kelly leading a four-man rush. At center. Shot it over the line. Goes behind the goal. Nestorenko was checked. Keon passed it back to Hillman. There's the shot. Wait on. Another shot. They score! George Armstrong whacked in the rebound.
Well, 1-0 as we await the start of the second period for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And as you noticed there, Ward, quite an exciting first period.
Indeed it was, Ed. Indeed it was. Let's move over now to Jack Dennett and Hockey News Roundup. And Jack, these Blackhawk Leaf games are sort of getting to be the specialties of the league.
Isn't it strange how it changes from one year to the next? I can remember for about, maybe more than 5 years, the main attraction was the Canadian Leaf games. Now Chicago is the big attraction. And the way they're playing, they're going to be for many years.
I think so. Jack, the news?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, when we think of hockey builders and well-known coaches and players, our thoughts naturally gravitate to the larger centers of Canada because I think you'll agree that's where the major goals are attained. But I don't think we should ever lose sight of the smaller communities across the country where so much groundwork for so many fine hockey stars has been taught. Now, I mention this simply because a man I've known and admired for many a long winter was rightfully honored last Thursday evening in one of the real hockey hotbeds of the Canadian prairies, Brandon, Manitoba. Now, Jake Milford and I have been close friends ever since Jake played in the old Alberta League with the Turner Valley Oilers. We spent a lot of time together at the Sarcee Army camp near Calgary. I followed his light-hearted career through the hockey leagues in Britain and down in Texas, and eventually out to Brandon, where he's made his hockey knowledge so well known to innumerable young players. Now, on Thursday last, Brandon honored Jake with a big banquet. They gave him gifts, they gave him accolades, and all these were so richly deserved. I'm only sorry I couldn't be there to share in the respects paid to this dedicated hockey teacher and his family. Tonight, however, we can provide you with just a brief glimpse of some of the goings-on during that memorable evening at the Wheat City Arena in Brandon. And that's Jake Milford addressing the banquet. This is not an unusual role for Jake because he's quite an accomplished after-dinner speaker and does quite a bit of it out on the Western Circuit. And there is the highlight of the evening when Jake was led onto the ice by the Pipers and presented with a number of gifts, including a new automobile, and all of these gifts from the grateful city of Brandon, Manitoba. Jake Milford, I think, has the two most necessary attributes for hockey: savvy of the game itself, of course, and besides that, a delightful sense of humor. And just so long as these endure, well, Brandon's certainly going to benefit by his presence in that area. Something else I'd like to mention tonight is that the Windsor Bulldogs, last year's Allen Cup winners, have just completed their tour of Europe, and next Monday evening, the city of Windsor is going to be welcoming the boys home with a dinner and a dance at the Angelus Hall at 7 o'clock in the evening. Now, the hockey fans in the Windsor area are urged to get out to this function and give these boys on the Windsor Bulldogs a warm welcome home. Just one more thing. Very few changes tonight. Both teams are close to full strength in this game at the Gardens. Simmons is replacing Johnny Bauer, who's out with the flu. Kent Douglas is still sidelined with a sore shoulder. And Chicago is only minus one man, Johnny McKenzie, who you may recall suffered a rather serious injury last week, and he'll be out until about the middle of February. And that's our Hockey News Roundup for tonight. Now, Ward Cornell.
Thank you very much, Jack. And in just a moment, we'll return to Bill Hewitt in a play-by-play of the second period.
Parking complaint, 1013.
Traffic officers looking for trouble and finding it. What's so serious? A light conked out on me. I'll get it fixed. It's not gonna hurt anyone. No. In 1 year, faulty lights caused 364 accidents in Ontario alone. He and his fellow officers saw the results of 2,559 accidents caused by defective brakes, 952 smash-ups caused by tire failures, and 2,113 other accidents caused by mechanical failure. Maybe that's what takes the edge off his sense of humor.
Our cars are built so well, we tend to take safety for granted. But neglect can cause the best engineering to fail. So don't take chances on a ticket or a tragedy. Have your neighborhood Esso dealer safety check your car next week, and then have him check regularly every month. Take the sensible, economical road to safety. Esso service and Esso products ensure safe winter driving. Give you more value that's right with the times.
Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest in the gondola tonight is the sports editor of the Toronto Globe and Mail, Mr. Jim Vipond, and Jimmy's going to be commenting during the second and third periods. He's also with me tonight to pick the 3 stars. And Jim, first of all, what about that first period? I thought it was a good period.
Very good period of hockey, and I'm glad I'm not picking the stars off the first period because it was a team effort, particularly in the Toronto part, Bill, and particularly in the way they capitalized on the penalty to Howie Young and scored that goal.
Well, Jimmy, it looks like these two teams have got real good bench strength.
They most certainly have, and it was evident tonight, Bill, when they used Larry Hillman on the point in the power play.
Good, Jim. I see the teams will be coming out in the ice momentarily. With the score 1-0 for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the only goal, as you saw as part of the videotape highlights in the first period, was by George Armstrong from Keon and Hillman at 11:30. And Jim, as you mentioned earlier in the period, there's where perseverance paid off.
It certainly does, Bill. I thought George Armstrong worked very hard to score that goal. In fact, I thought he had 2 cracks at the puck, and he seemed to shoot the puck between his legs, and it went between Glenn Hall's legs, too. It was a lovely play and a determined play, and the play that you generally see from George Armstrong.
Quite a first period of hockey down in Boston tonight, Jimmy. I understand the first period is not over yet, and it's 3-3. Well, there's 6 goals.
Well, goals are what people come to see in hockey, Bill, and that'll make the Boston fans very happy.
I think when we get a chance, we'll run them down. The game at Montreal has the Canadiens leading Detroit 1-0, and it's 1-0 here, of course, for the Leafs over the Chicago Blackhawks. And for this second period, Toronto Maple Leafs will defend the north end to my left. Chicago Blackhawks in their white uniforms, the south end to the right. The referee is Frank Gutberry with striped jersey number 1. The linesmen are Neil Armstrong, number 8, Ron Wicks, number 10. A few penalties nearly backfired on the teams in that first period, Jim.
Very interesting. That period that Toronto had 2 men short for 24 seconds, Bill, and the penalty killers particularly.
In the second period, Mahavlich unassisted at 7:08, his 8th of the year, and there were 4 penalties, 2 apiece. The score at the end of the second period, Toronto Maple Leafs 2, Chicago Blackhawks 0.
When you put an Atlas A battery in your car, Imperial Oil guarantees that you can do all this for 3 full years. Imperial can make this guarantee because the replacement quality of an Atlas battery means extra power, even after 1, 2, or 3 years operation. All Atlas batteries are built well above industry standards, with the ratings printed right here for everyone to see. There's more exposed plate area for the additional power older cars and electrical systems need, Plates are thicker for longer life. Atlas replacement quality. The Imperial Guarantee Fast Esso-matic Credit. 3 good reasons to see your Imperial Esso dealer soon. His products are part of his service to you, the motoring shopper.
Ward Cornell again. And before we have our special feature, A Day in the Life of a Pro Hockey Player, I thought that since Christmas is less than 3 weeks away, and you might be groping for some suggestions to give those youngsters who are interested in hockey something of a hockey motif, I thought I'd mention some of the books that are out. First of all, each club turns out a well-illustrated, well-pictured booklet, and they range in price from 60 cents to $1, and you could write to the publicity director of any one of the clubs. They're very informative, and I know youngsters would enjoy them. Now, other books that you can get in the bookstore, and these are just a few of them. We have Foster Hewitt's latest one, Hockey Night in Canada. This has been a bestseller for the last couple of years, full of wonderful general information. Mr. Selke's book, Behind the Cheering, his life in professional hockey with interesting anecdotes. Then we have Andy O'Brien's book on the Rocket, which is well known, and also his book, Headline Hockey, in which he does special stories with some of the great stars of the past and of the present. One of the new ones out this year is Andy Bathgate's Hockey Secrets, and this is a most interesting book because Andy goes into great detail on certain techniques. Ice Hockey by Jack Riley, also a very good instructional booklet, and Bill LaRue, Professor of Physical Education at the University of Western Ontario, with his book, Hockey for Boys. Now, all of these books, and there are some others, there will be a new one out by Frank Mahovlich, should be out by Christmas. Lynn Patrick's book on hockey is an extremely good one. And so there's lots there for the youngsters, and you can get them, first of all, by contacting, if you want one from the clubs, by contacting the publicity director of any one of the clubs. But we'll be back with our feature story and the rest of our intermission in just a moment.
The first half of tonight's telecast has been brought to you by Imperial Oil Limited and Esso dealers, agents, and distributors serving your community.
The second half of Hockey Night in Canada is brought to you by Molson, independent brewers since 1786. Brewers of Molson Canadian, the brightest lager beer brewed today.
Truly Canadian, it's a happy word and a happy theme. Really Canadian, it's the brightest note on a happy scene. Truly Canadian, the best word heard in the land today. Really Canadian, happy times, the time is right, the fun is bright, and friendly faces make a happy sight. So keep it happy in every way. The Canadian scene's the best and brightest scene today. So say it with a smile, call out from east to west. Truly Canadian, really Canadian, do-do-do-do, do-do-do. So say it with a smile, call out from east to west. Truly Canadian, Molson's Canadian, lager beer.
This is the story of the big land. A big land grows on steam and steel and wheels.
Turning, 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 wheels are always turning, cross rivers and plains, through wind and through rain. Turning, 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 that's the way a big land grows. Roads and rivers, wheels and people, growing, 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 growing.
A big tradition in the big land. Molson Export Ale, the big ale in the big land.
You like Sheriff Jelly Desserts. The out-of-town stores, Rangers at Boston.
In just a moment, the two teams will be on the ice for the third and final period. The score is 2-0 for the Toronto Maple Leafs, having scored a goal in each period. But first of all, I'd like to get to the games out of town. At the end of the second period at Montreal, Detroit is leading Montreal 2-1. Belleville from Gilles Tremblay and Laperriere, Del Vecchio from Howe and Barkley, at 48 seconds of the second period, and Pitt Martin from Ronnie Ingram and Larry Jeffrey at 15:26. So Detroit at the end of 2 periods is leading 2-1. Now in the game at Boston, it's 5-4, New York Rangers over the Boston Bruins at the end of the second period. Teams are out on the ice now for the final period. At Christmas, share your joy with thousands of forgotten mental patients throughout the country. They are the people who can be helped most by being remembered. Send a gift, however small, to your local Canadian Mental Health Association. My special guest in the gauntlet tonight, sports editor of the Toronto Globe and Mail, Jim Vipond.
Sport Ale, the Big Ale, in the Big Land.
Ladies and gentlemen, here are the 3 stars of tonight's game selected by Jim Vipond, sports editor of the Globe and Mail. The first star, Don Simmons. Second star, George Armstrong. Third star, Bobby Hull.
Well, Jim, Don Simmons kind of made your chance of a choice there rather good on the basis of his great performance tonight. He was your number 1 choice. Now, what's the reason?
Well, no doubt about it. He should be number 1 choice. That's his second shutout in 2 games, and he's supposed to be the second-string goalie, but he's going to make it awfully tough for Johnny Bauer to get back in here. He played very, very well tonight, Foster.
What about Armstrong?
Well, I picked George Armstrong as he represented, as team captain, represented a great team effort tonight.
And Bobby Hull, your
Bobby
third?
Hull is always the best of the Chicagos, and they didn't have too many stars tonight, but his dipsy-doodling, freewheeling certainly stood out for Chicago.
You didn't take into account anything on the fight tonight.
No, we'll leave that to the referee.
Well, he certainly took care of plenty, didn't he?
He certainly did.
Well, it was quite a battle royal, and Leafs finally defeated Chicago for the first time this season. Now, the shots on goal, the Toronto Maple Leafs outshot Chicago 30-23. In the other games tonight, both final, Montreal defeated Detroit 5-2, and Boston outlasted New York 8-6. The league standings, Chicago, of course, still well out in front with 36 points. Montreal in second place with 29 and still hanging on. The Toronto Maple Leafs with 28, Detroit with 17, New York and Boston tied with 15 points apiece. And so once again, the final score, Toronto Maple Leafs 3, Chicago Blackhawks no score.
The second half of tonight's telecast has been brought to you by Molson's, independent brewers since 1786. Brewers of Molson Export Ale, the Big Ale in the Big Land.
This telecast, Hockey Night in Canada, is the property of the advertisers. Reproduction by any means, in whole or in part, without permission, is prohibited.
Tomorrow night, Kay Alsop joins the flashback panel as they recall some of the famous personalities, fads, and customs of the past. Later tomorrow night, Horizon investigates the world of the songwriter in Quebec. This is the CBC Television Network.
Had 2 or 3 hard shots to handle in that period of time, too. Playing very well.
At Montreal, it's Montreal 1 and Detroit no score as we start playing the second period. It's cleared back into the Leaf zone. The Leafs are a man short. Nevin has 1 minute and 5 seconds now as Balfour gets set. He's in the Leaf zone, watched by Stanley. Stanley kicks it behind the net. Bobby Hull was partially checked. Keon and Horton combined to shoot it down the ice. And I may say the ice is very fast tonight here at the Gardens. 1-0 for the Leafs is Stan Mikita, number 21. Stands behind the net, gives it to Bobby Hull, number 9. Back to Stan Mikita. Over here to Hay, number 11, and he couldn't control it. Horton shoots it down the ice. Back to Hay again in the Chicago zone. Nevin has 17 seconds left in his penalty. Stan Mikita works his way to center. He shoots it into the Leaf zone. Simmons flicks it, and he flicks it into the crowd. Out of town scores. As we have them, first period, Bellow from Gilles Tremblay and LaPerriere at 5:23. 1-0 Montreal over Detroit. And it's a 3-3 tie, first period, at Boston. Mones, Williams, Bathgate, Fontaine, Kurtenbach, and Rod Gilbert, the goal scorers in the first period, to make it a 3-3 tie. Face-off in the Leaf zone to the right. Armstrong scoring his 9th of the year from Keon and Hillman at 11:30 of the first period, the only scoring play in the game so far between the Leafs and the Blackhawks. On the face-off, Pulford shot it around in the corner to Brewer, too far. Mahovlich covered his check. Brewer lost it to Wayne Hillman, who handed it to Bob Nevin. Nevin goes down the ice, over the line, took his shot way wide. Mahovlich couldn't control it. Hay flicked it. Pulford got a piece of it. Al McNeil passing it to Pulford, who gets it back to Brewer. Brewer just flicks it along the boards. And it's Hillman now down the right side. Wayne Hillman, that is. Larry Hillman playing with the Leafs. Bob Pulford. A pass for Frank Mahovlich. Down the left wing, back to Pulford. Pulford over the line with Nevin. Back for Pulford, and Wayne Hillman just had the last second. Bobby Hull races down the left wing. He's hit by Ball. Brewer. Over here to Nevin. Up for Pulford. Checked by Wayne Hillman, who shot it right to Brewer. Brewer. Up to Nevin again. Over the line. He's hit by Al McNeil, and Bobby Hull comes down the left side. Stopped by Bond, number 21. Bond to Frank Mahovlich. Mahovlich pass to an open wing. Nevin roars in, but he's partially covered by Hay. Gets it again, tried to center it. It goes to the corner, and Hull's after it. Gets away from Mahovlich. Coming up the center. He's checked by Mahovlich. Flip back to Wayne Hillman. Wayne Hillman, number 20, goes to the side of the Chicago goal. Long pass goes down at center. Carl Brewer with it. He flips it back in again. Glenn Hull caught it. Gives it to Al McNeil. Back to Bobby Hull, number 9. And Hull comes down the ice to center. Here comes the slap shot. And it was caught by Don Simmons, and there he goes again, shooting it into the crowd. I'd just like to remind the people in Sudbury and the Blind River area that immediately following our telecast tonight, they're having a special telethon to help needy children. The Blackhawks are claiming that deliberately delaying the game, and of course that would mean a penalty. Jim, you don't see that very often. Goalkeeper shooting that puck over the glass.
No, you don't, and that seemed to be a fairly deliberate attempt to get the puck, perhaps not over the glass, but to the side of the arena, Bill.
All set. From the faceoff, Kelly goes behind the net. He's stopped by Nestorenko. Nestorenko of Chicago centered it right in front of it. Hit Kelly's skate and goes to the corner. Ron Stewart couldn't get it out. Vasco's shot, and that was just off the target. Eddie Shack cleared it out to center. Vasco lost it. Kelly took a whack at it. Vasco gets it again. Stewart had him covered. Murphy tried to get out and couldn't. Vasco. Pass over here to Ron Murphy. Shack covered him. Stewart nearly got in front. Pierre Palat bumped into him. And Murphy was hit. Nestorenko gets to the Chico Mackey. He's trying to move in. He does to Murphy. A shot. Someone stopped that. And Stanley gets the rebound. Stanley starts out for the Leafs. A long pass at center ice. Shack trying to get it loose, and Nestorenko has it. Nestorenko with Chico Mackey over the line outside. And the face-off will be outside the blue line. We've played 4 minutes and 13 seconds of the second period. 1-0 for the Leafs. Detroit has tied it up 1-1 on Alex Del Vecchio's goal. The Leafs lose possession to Stan Mikita. Now then there's yelling at the bench, and there's going to be a penalty here to Chicago.
Jimmy? Bill, in the first period, I thought that Toronto was going to get a bench penalty. They were yelling at Frank Adveri, and he warned them. But I see now he's taking action against the Chicago penalty, the Chicago bench.
We have to wait and see, of course, who's going to come over and serve the penalty. Coach Billy Ray. The referee, Frank Adveri. And it's going to be Murray Hall, number 7. He goes to the penalty box.
Chicago penalty. A bench minor, 2 minutes, time 4:21, penalty served by Murray Hall.
Murray Hall serves the bench penalty at 4:21 of this second period. Leafs leading 1-0. Duff shot it over the line. Al McNeil clears it back out again. Leafs have the odd man. It goes to Kelly. Kelly moves up, takes his shot. That's wide. Al McNeil again clears it out. Duff goes back, all the way back. In behind the Leaf goal. Past it, and it was nowhere near Keon, and Al McNeil rags it, goes back into his own zone, shoots it. Armstrong, back to Hillman. Hillman to Keon. Keon, over the line to Duff. Duff shot it around behind the goal onto this wing. Hillman back to Kelly. Kelly's shot knocked down by Chico Mackey. Down the ice for Nestorenko. He's still got it. Over the line. There's the shot, and Simmons caught that and gives it to Duff. Duff spun around. There's going to be a penalty here to Nestorenko. It's a 2-man break for the Leafs. Kelly over the line. Back to Duff. Duff closes into the corner. Shot it right in front. And Keon wrapped it wide of the open corner. It's still in the Chicago zone. Hookford goes to the boards and holds it there. And now we have another penalty to Chicago. This time to Nestorenko. Well, Jimmy, lots of excitement.
Well, Bill, it's very interesting in other strains that each team has made good use of the play whereby the goalie goes to the bench when the other team is about to be penalized and the goalie's team has the puck. I don't think I've seen this play work this year in any other game. It's worked twice tonight.
Chicago penalty, number 15, Nestorenko. 2 minutes for hooking.
A hooking penalty.
Time 5:40.
5:40 is the time of the hooking penalty. Now then, Chicago will play 2 men short. The Leafs did that in the first period. On the face-off, Mahavlich shot it behind the net. Pierre Palat knocked it to the corner. Stan Mikita goes after it and cleared it past Horton down the ice. Kelly goes back for it, number 4. Kelly leading a 4-man rush with Mahavlich, Nevin, and Pulford. They're over the line, 4 of them going in. A pass, Kelly tried to get it, Pulford centered it, and it's wrapped down the ice by Pierre Palat. 12 seconds left on the penalty. Murray Hall, Horton leads a 4-man rush. They're all going to center. Horton, a pass for Mahavlich through to Pulford. Pulford in the position, still has it. Back to Nevin. Nevin for Pulford. It's right in front of the net. Here comes Horton's shot. And he shot it wide. Pasco cleared it for Stan Mikita too far down the ice. Horton goes back, and now Chicago are 1-man short. Nevin. Pass for Frank Mahavlich. Over the line. Nevin follows through with him. Tried to pass it out in front. It goes to the corner. Nevin back to Kelly. Kelly took his shot. Pulford tried to deflect it, and Bobby Hull gets the rebound. Out to Stan Mikita. Stopped by Mahavlich. Mahavlich over on the left wing. Up over the Chicago line. Going right in on goal. Score! Mike Mahavlich.
That goal by Frank must be a particular, must make Frank Mahavlich feel very, very happy because people say that he cannot score goals against the top teams. He did tonight against Chicago. His 7 other goals have been against Boston and Detroit.
7:08, Mahavlich scoring. High stick on the puck. But it was touched by the Chicago player who knocked it down, so play will continue. Ron Stewart has it now. Watched by Hay. A pass to Harris. Harris's pass for Shack, nowhere near him. Howe. Hay and Balfour fail to get over the line. Shack. Stick handling. Pass for Harris. Back for Stewart. Over the line. Back for Shack. He takes his shot right on. And it's rebounds to the wing. Cleared down the ice, and Brewer goes after it. Brewer. Hit by Hull. Bobby Hull now trying to get away from Shack. It reached the 8-minute mark in the second period. Bobby Hull coming up the center. Over the line. Shack gets a hold of it. And there's going to be a penalty to Shack. Eddie Shack, number 23, gets his second penalty of the night, and the Leafs will be short-handed.
Number 23, Shack. 2 minutes for hooking. Time 8:09.
This game is coming to you from Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto.
Atlas weather guards bite like tire chains, give you top traction under all winter driving conditions. Have Atlas weather guards installed at your Imperial Esso dealer now.
On the face-off, here's a chance for Stan Mikita, the drive, and Simmons has got it in his right hand. Boston now leads Rangers 4-3. Face-off is in the Leafs zone to the left. Hay, Hull, Balfour, Makita, and Al McNeil. Stanley couldn't get it out. Bobby Hull shot it, and Simmons stopped that. Here's a chance for Keon. Takes his shot. Oh, and Glenn Hall got his glove on that one. Dan Makita pass back to Hull. Hull starting out now to his own blue line. Up the center. Back to Stan Makita. Makita watched by Keon. Rolled it right in front of the net. And Bobby Hull just couldn't control it. Still in the Leaf zone. Hull with it. Here it comes over to Billy Hay, number 11. He passed it back. Stanley gets a hold of it and knocks it out over the line. Al McNeil back, number 19. We're past the 9-minute mark now in the second period. Stanley runs into Stan Makita. Keon flipped it out. It rolls loose, and Armstrong and Keon have got it. One man back. Armstrong shoots it, and Al McNeil fell in front of it. Keon is replaced by Pulford. It's over to Bobby Hull, a shot. The rebound right in front of the net, and Pulford's got it. Pulford races down the ice. Up over the line, closing in, takes his shot. Stanley went after the rebound. And it goes over the glass into the crowd, and they're going from end to end. Shack is still in the penalty box. He has 32 seconds. Pulford and Nevin along with Vaughn and Brewer. Bobby Hull stays out there. Reg Fleming is now out. Ab McDonald, Kenny Warham, Pierre Palat, and Elmer Vasco. Now then, Bobby Hull gets a well-deserved rest. He's been out most of this period. There's a shot by Nevin that goes to the opposite wing from the face-off. Coming up to the 10-minute mark, the halfway mark in the second period in the game. Warham passing it to Fleming. Fleming up the center. Checked by Nevin. Vasco, a pass to Warham. Here's Warham's shot. And Simmons stopped that. Nevin, a pass for Pulford. Vasco clears it to Ab McDonald, number 14. Back to Pierre Palat. He's watched by Pulford. And the Moose on his way. Vasco over to Warham. Back to Fleming. There's the shot. And Simmons has got that.
Simmons is certainly having a great night tonight, Bill. I heard Punch Imlach, coach of the Leafs, refer to him as a mechanical goalie the other night after he had his 3-0 shutout against Canadians. I don't know what a mechanical goalie is unless it's one that's doing the job perfectly, and he is doing just that.
Right, Jim, and it's 2-0 to score in favor of the Leafs over the Blackhawks at the 10:15 mark of the second period. Nevin, Pulford, Mahavlich, Bond, and Brewer. Nevin poked it into the corner in his own zone, and Pulford's back for it. Back for Frank Mahavlich. Mahavlich. Checked by Ab McDonald. And Bond ran into Warham. Fleming is hit by Brewer. It at the blue line, a shot deflected to the corner. Bond goes after it. Ran into Fleming. Fleming took a whack at it. Simmons gets a hold of that. Here's play called as Fleming went after the loose puck. This game is coming to you from Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto.
The right gasolines for this time of year. Esso and Esso Extra.
Face-off is in the Maple Leaf zone to the right. From the face-off, Stewart, a long pass for Shack, goes by him and Pierre Palat. He goes after it. Palat jammed by Shack. Warham gets a hold of the puck, Number 17 bringing it out. Drop pass to Pierre Palat up the center. He shoots it over the line. Fleming was offside. That means that Ron Murphy's now coming out for Chicago along with Chico Mackey and Nestorenko. Kelly, Stewart, and Shack, Horton, and Stanley on the defense. Chico Mackey to center ice for Chicago. Wayne Hillman and Al McNeil on the defense. It comes over to Ron Stewart. His pass for Shack over the line. Covered by Wayne Hillman, jammed in on the boards. Nestorenko clears it for Chico Mackey. Back to Nestorenko. A long pass for Ron Murphy. Up over the line. Horton covered him. Right him off to the boards. Stewart tried to get it loose. Chico Mackey gets it to Ron Murphy. Sent it right in front. Kelly gets a hold of it. Tries to get it out. It rolls over the line. Al McNeil passes to Chico Mackey, number 16. He turns at center. Checking pretty close at the moment, and it's cleared back into the Leaf zone, and it's on a delayed whistle offside. We have 8 minutes and 5 seconds remaining in the second period. 2-0 for the Leafs. All set to go. Linesman Ron Wicks set to drop the puck. Referee Frank Godberry, we can hear him up here in the gondola saying, keep those sticks down. Pass for Shack, hit his skate, goes back into the Leaf zone, and Simmons gives it to Horton, number 7. Horton behind the Leaf net, coming slowly with a pass to Stanley. Stanley gets away from Ron Murphy, a pass for Kelly to Ron Stewart, and it was offside. Came from inside the blue line over the checkered line at center. 7 minutes and 45 seconds remaining to play in the second period. 2-0 for the Leafs. They led 1-0 in the first period on Armstrong's goal from Keon and Hillman at 11:30. They scored in the second period, Mahavlich unassisted at 7:08. On the face-off, Wayne Hillman passed it right on the Shack stick. He gave it to Ron Stewart. A pass for Kelly. It hit Al McNeil in the back of the skate. And it's cleared out to Eric Nestorenko. To Chico Mackey. He was hit by Stanley, partially. Tim Horton comes down the ice. For the Leafs. Over the line. Tried to go through, left it there. It's cleared over on this wing for Murphy. Stewart skated him off. He falls. Chico Mackey back to Wayne Hillman and hopped over his stick and goes into the corner. Wayne Hillman. Pass to Al McNeil. Up to Chico Mackey. A long shot. Simmons played it to Shack. Shack ran into Murphy. Gives it to Stanley. Over here to Horton on the right wing. Long pass to Shack. Up over the line. Passed it back, and Keon didn't see it. Back for Chicago. Over the line for Ron Murphy. Trying to cut in. Nestorenko off the side. Horton grabs a Chicago player. Play is called, and there's a holding penalty against the Leafs. Tim Horton. So that's the fourth penalty of the second period, and that makes it 2 apiece.
Well, I see Bobby Hull out on the ice again. This week I heard Carl Brewer tell an audience that Bobby Hull was the hardest player to stop. Now, that's a very strange thing because Brewer plays left defense and Hull plays left wing. Yet you watch Hull, he comes up left wing one time, center the one time, and right wing another time.
Right, Jimmy. 13:29 is the time of the holding penalty. And from the faceoff, here's the chance for Bobby Hull. He centered it right on the Keon stick. Keon to Armstrong. Brewer goes racing down the left wing, over the line. Armstrong after it. Takes his shot. And Glenn Hall stopped that. Now up for the first time, Murray Hall for Chicago, number 7. Bobby Hull to Pierre Palat. Armstrong watching him. Pass to Hay, stopped by Bond and Keon. Back to Bond, number 21. Just shoots it back into the Chicago zone. And it's Stan Mikita. Here he comes, number 21, up to center ice. He's got Murray Hall on his right. He was checked by Bond. Gets it again, though, over to Murray Hall, over the line with Pierre Palat. Pierre Palat didn't see it till the last second. Here he's getting set. The screen shot is wide, and it rebounded out over the blue line. Stan Mikita. A pass to Murray Hall. Back to Hay. They're over the line. Hay goes into the board. Hall tried to center it. Brewer ran into Murray Hall and knocked him down. Keon passes for Armstrong. Armstrong tried a flip pass intended for Keon, and it goes into the Chicago zone. Pitt Martin has scored for Detroit. They lead Montreal 2-1. Slapped around on the boards. Pierre Palat tried to keep it in. He did to Bobby Hull. There's his shot across in front. It goes back to Stan Mikita. The drive hits Stanley's skate. Fulford to Nevin. And Nevin shoots it down the ice. 12 seconds left on the penalty to Horton. 4 minutes and 40 seconds remaining in the second period. 2-0 for the Leafs. There's a shot right across the goal mouth. Glenn Hall wasn't expecting it. Fulford flips it back to Horton as he's on the ice. It went to Bond, though, to Stanley. Stanley over to Bond. Bond to center, up over the Chicago line, closes in with a shot. And again, Al McNeil dropped down to make the save, although that seemed to hurt him. It's over the Leaf line. Stanley knocked it out. Al McNeil covers up. Cleared it along the boards, and Kenny Warham pass for Stan Mikita. It's offside. And the face-off will be outside the Leaf blue line. This game is coming to you from Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto.
Atlas batteries, the replacement quality batteries, built to supply the extra power older cars need. Ask about Atlas batteries at your Imperial Esso dealer this week.
Face-off is going to come back actually to the checkered line, but on the Maple Leaf side. It's Stan Mikita staying right out there. Reg Fleming has moved on to the right wing, and Ab McDonald on the left. Rangers have tied it up at Boston. It's now 4-4. 2-0 here for the Leafs over Chicago as Alan Stanley. Stick handled by two. Long pass for Frank Mahovlich was way too far for him. It's over the red line. Vasco touched it. Icing the call. Nowhere near Frank Mahovlich on the pass. And we have 3 minutes and 41 seconds remaining in the second period. Fontaine scored the goal for Rangers. Ingerfield and Gilbert assisting. So that's Rangers and Boston, 4-4, second period at Boston. Detroit leads Montreal 2-1, and the Leafs are ahead 2-0 here as Ron Stewart still stick handles with the puck. Gets up to Kelly. Kelly being watched by Ab McDonald. Still has it over to Stanley. Flipped it ahead. Stopped by Stan Mikita. He gets it over the line. Trying to center it in front. It's Reg Fleming trying to get it to Ab McDonald, who's uncovered. It comes out in front of the net, and Kelly has it. Kelly down with Stewart and Mahovlich. They're up over the line together. Kelly to Stewart. He shoots it right off. Mahovlich let one go. And that was just off the target, and they hold it against the boards, and there's no further play. At Montreal, second period, Detroit 2, Montreal 1, Beliveau, Del Vecchio, and Martin, the goal scorers. And it's 4-4, second period at Boston. There were 6 goals scored in the first period at Boston, 3 apiece, and they both scored once in the second. Armstrong and Mahavlich, the goal scorers for the Leafs in this game so far. 2-0 over Chicago. Keon covers Wayne Hillman. Howie Young shot it along the boards for Nestorenko, number 15. Nestorenko comes down. He's knocked flying by Brewer. Then Young ran into Duff. Wayne Hillman, a pass for Tico Mackey to Ron Murphy. He gets over the line, trying to cut in, passed it right in front of the net, and Keon was there. Ahead for Duff. Just gets it out to center ice. Howie Young with it, number 2. Young ran into Bond, fell. Brewer shoved by Tico Mackey. Lost it. Duff. Check. Tico Mackey trying to get his shot. Nestorenko has it. Here's back to Young, and he fanned on it. Armstrong ahead for Keon and Duff, and they chop it into the Chicago zone, and Wayne Hillman's back. 1 minute and 50 seconds remaining in the second period. It goes out to center ice. Bob Barnes shoots it right back in again. Chicago go back. Wayne Hillman, number 20. Still with it. Keon covered him. Howie Young to Nestorenko, stopped by Duff. Still in the Chicago zone. Hillman, a pass over on the left wing to Murphy, ahead to Nestorenko. Nestorenko at center. Gets away from Duff. Gets over the line to Ron Murphy's checked by Duff this time. A pass to Hillman. Hillman just shoots it, and it hits the referee. Dave Keon to Duff. To Armstrong. Shot it in. It's Dave Keon after it.
In this period.
Less than a minute to go. Centered it right in front. It comes back to Brewer. Over to Bond. Bond let his shot go. It goes right to Glenn Hall, and he holds it. We have 49 seconds remaining in the second period. Chicago now send out Bobby Hull, Murray Hall, Billy Hay, Pierre Palat, and the Moose, Elmer Vasco. Bob Pulford, Nevin, Frank Mahavlich, Stanley, and Horton. Hay didn't get in the proper position in the circle, and now he's going to be waved out of there. And they're going to wave Pulford out, too. So the referee isn't picking any favorites. Chases them both out. Mahavlich took a swipe at the puck from the face-off. Here he's got it again. Passed it right in front of the net. Here Palat clears it to Murray Hall, up to Hay. Hay, a long pass for Bobby Hull, stopped by Nevin. Frank Mahavlich gets a hold of it. Over to Alan Stanley. Up for Frank Mahavlich. Mahavlich, too well covered by Pierre Palat. Then Pulford flicks it in with 22 seconds remaining. Elmer Vasco, a pass to Bobby Hull. A cleared pass to Billy Hay with Murray Hall, who took the pass over the line. There's the shot, hits Stanley. Stanley comes up with it. Flicks it out to Pulford, too far. And Vasco has to go back for it with 5 seconds. He looks up at the clock, tried to find a man in position, gives it to Bobby Hull. There's the shot. Simmons has got it. The bell goes, and the second period is over. In the first period, Armstrong from Keon and Hillman at 11:30 made it 1-0 for the Leafs as they outshot Chicago 9-6. There were 5 penalties in the first period, 3 to the Leafs, 1 minute and 45 seconds left.
Offside.
On the face-off, Stewart back to Brewer. Brewer behind the net to Bond. Bond ahead for Harris. Harris brings it out on the right wing. Pass for Shack, goes to the corner. Shack races after it. Tried to center it, he did. Brought up to center ice, and there's Eddie Shack with it again. He goes back into his own zone. Still has it. Passes it out to Harris. Harris back to Shack. In with Ron Stewart. A pass to Stewart, and the shot was stopped by Glenn Hall. Back comes Stan Mikita. Up with Reg Fleming. Over the line. Stan Mikita gets a shot. Shack was caught with a high stick. There's going to be a penalty there. Fleming. Jack down on one knee. Now Bond has gone after Fleming. They're at the penalty box. Now here comes Shack. Careful at it there. Now Shack is looking at Fleming. And Mikita's in there with him. Fleming is out of the game. They're still arguing there. Now Fleming wants to take on Hillman. Now then Bond gets a hold of Fleming, gets on top of him, keeps swinging at him. Still swinging. Now all the players are coming out on the ice. Now then Horton gets a hold of Fleming, and they're all getting into it. Dan Mikita and Keon. Al McNeil on top. Brewer's got a hold of Murray Balfour, and Balfour pulls his sweater off. Stanley is still trying to pull Hay off. Fleming gets up. Horton has a hold of him. Still has a hold of him. Then Hay gets on top of Stanley. Horton has Fleming. Now then Hillman goes at it with McNeil. And they haven't tired yet. Jimmy, this is quite a Donnybrook. We almost saw this coming.
Yeah, Al McNeil and Larry Hillman are going at it, and there's Wayne Hillman standing right by watching his brother fight. One of the very few players that does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different fights. Look at the goalies down here, Bill.
Murray Balfour chasing Carl Brewer. Murray Balfour wants to get in a few shots. Well, maybe we can get a real full shot of all the gloves and sticks all over the ice. Now then we have Fleming mixing it up again. And Stanley swings at Fleming, and they're all getting into it. Now then, here's Balfour and Brewer again. And Brewer mixing it up with Balfour. They're still at it. Brewer getting on top of Balfour. Now then they're back on their feet again. Now he's banging with his head. They're still mixing it up. Now then, Balfour and Brewer, and they all get in on it. They're all fighting over at the Leaf bench. And Makita and Duff gets a hold of Fleming. Fleming goes down. Duff has a hold of Fleming. And Chico Mackey is grabbed, then Nesarenko grabs a hold of him. Bond and Stan Makita, the goalkeepers, still watch the melee. Okay, Jimmy.
The goalkeepers must have a union. They've been talking over. They're not interested in getting any fights. Bill, there'll be at least 10 players, not at least, there will have to be 10 players from each side will probably get fines because everybody's on the ice, and all players that come on the ice from the bench to get into a fight get an automatic $25 fine. So I imagine we'll hear more about this little Donnybrook during the week.
Well, we've lost Murray Balfour and Carl Brewer. They went through the board somewhere. Maybe see if we can find Brewer if he's back out there. Murray Balfour, can't find him.
They were last seen behind the Leafs bench.
Fleming is still talking to Duff. Al McNeil's in on it. Isn't over yet. Now will be the tough task of finding your gloves.
Bill, you could see this coming all night from the opening period. The sticks were sort of, there was a lot of spearing going on. They were sticking the, players from both sides were sticking the sticks into their tummies, and this is what causes all this excitement, tempers. The referee's got to be a Methuselah to figure this one out.
Well, it certainly erupted very quickly.
Strangely enough, Bill, remember a few years ago when Montreal and Toronto got into a similar fight with a minute or two to go. The referee was Frank Udbury, and on that occasion he cleared both benches, just left 6 players out to finish the game.
Very interesting to see what he does this time, but the Chicago Blackhawks had something like this a little earlier in the season in Montreal, and although all the teams have been getting into it, they certainly ain't going to back down. No team is going to back down in this league. And as you mentioned, with the high sticks flying around, it doesn't take them too long to start dropping sticks then and using their fists.
That's right, Bill.
Maybe it's best that way.
Yes, see that some of the fans are a little agitated, although I saw one gentleman lean over and grab a stick and try shooting on the Maple Leaf Gardens. He must be from out of town and wants the home folks to know he's here.
Now Howie Young's
going over this. There's some fans involved in an argument by the Leafs bench.
Now then, the referee is trying to weigh them all off the ice. This all happens with 3 minutes and 3 seconds left to go. Rangers and Boston are tied 6-6. Montreal 5, Detroit 2, as Henri Richard scored at 19:59. That game's over. Montreal 5, Detroit 2. It's 3-0 here, and I wouldn't even attempt to say what happened in the fight as far as win, lose, or draw. However, we can remind you that this game is coming to you from Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. Just as we gave you the out-of-town score, Boston has now gone ahead of the Rangers 7-6.
Well, referee Frank Udvary's got a private secretary down there at the penalty bench listening all these penalties. This is going to be a very interesting assessment of the situation.
Well, I think we're going to have an adding machine, Jimmy, to keep track of the assessment of penalties. We'll try and catch it on the public address system if they're going to announce it. Just about set to go again. You notice that we have a bunch of subdued hockey players at the moment. They're really tired. Well, now they had the score 7-6. Now they've taken it off the board again, and this is the game at Boston, 8-6. Boston 8, Rangers 6. There are the out-of-town scores. Boston 8, Rangers 6, Montreal 5, Detroit 2. That one's final. Well, now the two teams have gone to their respective players' benches. There's Punch Imlach and his Maple Leafs. Get a look at the Chicago Blackhawks bench, where we have Billy Ray. There's the center exit. Now we have the Chicago Blackhawks. There's Bobby Hull, Tommy Ivan, Billy Ray standing up on the bench, Ron Murphy, Wayne Hillman. Just to review the scoring for you, Armstrong from Kean and Hillman at 11:30 in the first period is 9th of the year. In the second period, Mahavlich is 8th unassisted, 7:08. In the final period, Shack from Kelly at 3:35. Now then, the referee is called for the face-off. And whether he's got major penalties up on the board, but no numbers. All the players, Chicago players, are over at the Chicago bench, including Glenn Hall. I believe they're just marking it down as they're going to play four-a-side. Larry Hillman has been sent to the dressing room. Carl Brewer has gone to the dressing room. Murray Balfour still on the bench. Ron Stewart is going to the dressing room. See who else goes.
Chicago penalties.
There they are.
Fleming, 5 minutes for spearing, 5 minutes for fighting, a 10-minute misconduct, and a game misconduct. Makita, 5 minutes for fighting, a 10-minute misconduct. Mackey, a 10-minute misconduct. Balfour, 5 minutes for fighting and a game misconduct. Penalties for the Leafs: Vaughn, 5 minutes for fighting, a 10-minute misconduct and a game misconduct. Stewart, 5 minutes for fighting and a 10-minute misconduct. Hillman, 5 minutes for fighting and a 10-minute misconduct.
There's the penalty. A long shot at the Leaf goal.
Time, 16:57.
16:57 was the time on those penalties. So Carl Brewer did not get a penalty, and he's back on the bench. It goes down the ice, and Stanley back. Over to Horton. Horton comes up the center. Team's playing for a side. A long shot. Came right back out in front. Nesterenko after it. 2 minutes and 5 seconds remaining in the game. 3-0 the score. Over on the left wing to Vasco to Howie Young. He breaks it on goal. And Simmons stopped that. And Simmons was hit. And Coulthard clears it out and down the ice. Play is called. Don Simmons down on both knees as he was bumped by Howie Young. It appeared like an accident from here as he was going by. Simmons was well out of his net. May have just had his wind knocked out. Still down on his knees. Shack comes out. Now Simmons gets back up again. Bobby Haggart, the trainer for the Maple Leafs, gives him back his mask. Now coming out is Carl Brewer. Along with Shack. Horton is going to stay out. Nesterenko, Vasco, and Young. Shack gets it back to Horton. Horton to Brewer. Brewer. At center ice. Pass it over to Horton. Horton rags the puck. Pass for Shack off the board. Nesterenko goes back. Picks it up in his own zone. Pass it over for Elmer Vasco. 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining in the game. Howie Young to center. Pass over to Vasco. Stopped by Horton. Goes back at center. Nesterenko. Back to Vasco. Over the line, a pass at the blue line. Howie Young moves up. Tried to pass it through, and Tim Horton has it. Gets up with a pass to Shack. Over the line. Takes his shot. Right on. Horton lets it go. Set away. Back for Nesterenko. 40 seconds left. Drags it over the line. Shack breaks it up. Flips it. It goes high near Simmons. Over to Carl Brewer. Carl Brewer with it. Carl Brewer in the corner. Back to Horton. Out here to Shack. Shack's got a break. They're trying to get back over the line. Shack still with it. Pass it down the ice into his own zone. Simmons after it. 10 seconds. Horton. A flip pass on the boards to Shack. 5 seconds. Takes a long shot. And Glenn Hall stops it. The game is over.